Alright, we're going to be taking notes through this video today. So you need to have a piece of paper and a pencil, or if you can make this video a little bit smaller, drop it down in the corner so that you can type on your notes app or pages, but still be able to see and hear the video. You could also do that. So today we're actually going to be looking at Mali, or Mali, not really sure exactly the right pronunciation of that. But this is our next ancient kingdom of Africa. And you're going to notice that the modern day countries of these places aren't necessarily in the same spot that they were in ancient times. For example, Ghana, the country, is now right down here, where in the ancient times it used to be up here, between the Senegal and the Niger River. So Mali, the ancient kingdom, was actually south of the Ghana kingdom, and so that means it'd be somewhere in this region. So they're definitely still close to where they originally formed, but they're just in different spots now, and they have different outlines. So this is Mali. You can see that it's mainly made up of desert regions. If I click over here to their climate zones, it tells us the desert stops right about here. It slowly turns into a steppe region, and then the savannas, which would be much better for grazing. So if they mainly have desert in Mali, that's going to affect how much food they can grow, where they can let their animals graze, things like that. So Mali would definitely rely a lot on trade to feed their people. Or actually, there wouldn't even be a lot of people living here in this desert region. Some, but not many. Actually, we can click on population density. This would be of modern day Mali, but I'm sure it was still the same in ancient times. So these light collars tell us that per square kilometer, there's only about one person that would be in this region. Every square kilometer, they would say on average, would have one person. So as you move closer and closer to the steppe region and the savannas, the population density goes up. And this is modern day, so these numbers wouldn't be the same for ancient times. So if we go back to, let's see, satellite. So this is, you can see steppe is like in between. The steppe climate is in between desert and savanna. So it's like you're stepping up into the savanna region where you have more grass. It's the in-between. Anyways, that's the layout and climate of Mali. So we're going to switch over here to these readings of the different empires. We went over Ghana yesterday, and we talked about how they were big into trading, and their main resources were gold and salt. And they were so good at trading, and they had the perfect location for trading, so they basically controlled most of African trade. Even North and South Africa had to go through their kingdom. So there would definitely be different trade routes. If they needed to get something to Egypt, Ghana definitely didn't control what was going on over there. But if somebody from Botswana, for example, needed to get something to Algeria, they would have to go through the Ghana Empire. So they controlled a lot of African trade, and that made them very powerful. However, like most of the kingdoms we've learned about so far this year, they don't last forever. In fact, they began to decline. So while the Ghana Empire began to decline, another kingdom started to pop up, and that was the Kingdom of Mali. Yesterday we learned about what caused the Ghana Empire to decline, and if you didn't get this yesterday, you should definitely write down. The Ghana Empire began to decline because of invasions. They began to decline because of invasions, overgrazing, and rebellion. Cancel that. There we go. All right. So these are causes of Ghana decline. Oops. There we go. So you definitely need that in your notes if you didn't get that yesterday. And I know some classes, we were running out of time at the end of class, and you didn't get to write all that down. So they're invaded by North African Muslims. And the overgrazing was by, we'll say, North African Muslim herds. So they brought in a lot of animals and they overgrazed Ghana's land. And so the people of Ghana couldn't produce enough food for their people anymore. So they were weakened for sure. And then the rebellion was just people were tired of being ruled by Ghana. Let's expand this a little bit. There we go. All right, so now we have the Mali Empire. They start expanding when Ghana is declining. And the Kingdom of Mali began south of the Kingdom of Ghana, around the source of the Niger River. So all these kingdoms that we learn about, they have to have a water source. They're going to want to be close to a river so that they can trade easy with other places. They just have to use the flow of the river to get all their goods to different places. So they're always near a river. Let's see, and we're in around the 1200s AD. And the king of Mali actually led a rebellion against Ghana and conquered the empire. So Ghana becoming weaker, let me write that down. Ghana's weakness allowed Mali to take over. That would be something important. He made the capital city, and this marks the beginning of the Mali Empire. And so when they took control of this region, they also got control of the gold and salt trade. And they were able to keep control of that trade for 300 years. Pull this down. All right, so this person, I'm not even going to pronounce the name, but the ruler of the Mali kingdom, he expanded the empire because this is what all empires do. As they get more money and they have more weapons, they get stronger, they go out and take over other places. This is nothing new. And he went over into the east, into the modern-day nation of Niger, and north to the trading city of Timbuktu. And this is where both cultures were able to mingle and start mixing their cultures together, a lot like the Greeks would do with Rome. So they start to mix cultures. And it becomes a center of learning that attracted scientists, philosophers, and religious scholars from Egypt and Mecca. So that would be something important for Timbuktu. Timbuktu was, we'll just shorten that and say, a culturally important place of Africa. Timbuktu, not only was it important for trading, but because everybody was going to Timbuktu to trade, that's why all these cultures got to meet each other and people started to learn from each other. Scientists would learn from other scientists, philosophers would share their ideas with other philosophers. It was a place where people could mix their cultures. And just like in Rome, whenever you get to mix cultures, that's when you really have advancements in society because you're learning all these new things. Books were a popular thing that was traded. Let's see, Islamic scholars wrote books in Arabic, which helped spread the language throughout the city. So the language, the Arabic language was spread, and a lot of West Africa still, that would be a common language. There's a ton of languages in Africa, actually. So just this trading was able to spread some languages around. And there are museums in Timbuktu that hold these libraries. All right, here's a picture of a mosque that is in the Mali Empire. And then we have Mansa Musa. All right, we're definitely going to take notes on him, so let's label Mansa Musa. Okay, we can say he expanded Mali to its largest boundaries. Or he grew Mali to the largest that it was. Something like that. He grew Mali so that it was the largest that it ever was in its history. And it gained control of gold producing areas, so they had even more gold and salt mines. He expanded trade throughout the Sahara, so they're trading through the desert, which would be a really difficult task to go over the Sahara Desert. If we switch back to this, I mean, I think I saw they mentioned Morocco. So they'd be going from down here, south of the Niger, all the way through the desert to get to Morocco to trade. So that's a long way to cross a desert. I would hope that they would go along this way so that it's not, they would get some breezes from the ocean or something, because this would be a miserable walk, even if you do have camels. So anyway, Mansa Musa was well known outside of West Africa. So even though they didn't have the internet, they didn't have the postal service, this guy was well known throughout West Africa. And this is probably why he was well known, because he made the pilgrimage to Mecca, which is what is expected of every Muslim. Yeah, 2 C's. Okay, he made the pilgrimage to Mecca. And before I switch over back to the map, I'll leave this right here so that you can get everything written down. Oops. There, expand that. So he traveled by caravan across the Sahara Desert to Morocco, and then across North Africa, arriving in Cairo after 8 months of travel. So he's traveling through the desert for 8 months. According to witnesses, his caravan contained over 60,000 men, 80 camels, each carrying 300 pounds of gold. In Cairo, he spent gold lavishly, so much so that by the time he left, the price of gold had dropped so significantly that it did not recover for 12 years. So he brought so much gold into Cairo, he actually reduced the price of gold because there was so much in Cairo now. Europeans and North Africans were very impressed by stories of Mansa Musa's wealth and tales of the rich kingdom spread, of the kingdom spread. All right, so hopefully you've gotten this written down in your notes right here about Mansa Musa. He expanded Mali to the largest boundaries, and he made the pilgrimage to Mecca. So I'm going to switch over to the map for a second to show where he traveled and how he got to Mecca. So he's somewhere down here in the kingdom of Mali, and it said he went up to North Africa. Let me zoom out a little bit. And then he'd go across North Africa to Egypt. And if I click on major cities, there's Cairo, near the Fertile Crescent. And he'd have to keep on going to get to Mecca. So he's not to Mecca yet. He has to go over in here to get to Mecca. So it's a very long journey. And, I mean, it said it took him 8 months, right? All right. So make sure you have this. And this guy right here is actually the next person we're going to be talking about. Ibn Battuta. He's a scholar. A scholar means somebody who studies and teaches people for a living. That's just like his job is to be smart and learn new things and come up with new ideas. Study libraries of books. So he is a scholar, and he traveled from Morocco, and he gives us the clearest picture of the Kingdom of Mali. So that means he's writing about Mali, explaining what it looks like there, what people do there. So he is the reason we know so much about this empire. Let me go up here and drag down my post-it. Okay, Ibn Battuta. And I'm just going to say the reason, am I spelling everything right? I don't know. Yeah. The reason we know so much about the Mali Empire. So he stayed in the capital city for about 50 days and wrote down his observations about the kingdom. We'll say he wrote about the kingdom. And he praised the safety of the kingdom and the swift execution of justice. So he, most likely in his writings, he's talking about how they dealt with crime in a very, in a way that people wouldn't want to continue doing crime. So they had a very good justice system that would make people afraid to do anything wrong. So, like we said in the Ghana Empire, nobody's allowed to have more gold than the emperor, and they would make sure people followed that rule by having severe punishments. Well, back then this was just a common thing. So the Kingdom of Mali was no different. They had a very good justice system that kept people doing what they were supposed to do. But, like we said, of all the kingdoms that we've studied, they pretty much all fall at some point. They have an end to their great empire. So the decline of Mali will be the next section of this. Mali. The decline of Mali. After Mansa Musa's death, the Mali Empire slowly declined. So he was a big reason that they were doing so well. And after they lost this great emperor, things just didn't go so well. So we'll say it started declining after Musa died. They had a rebellion. Oops. They had a rebellion. And the people from the north captured the city of Timbuktu. People in the west rebelled as well. Gradually, Mali lost control of its empire and the gold and salt trade. Around 1550, Mali ceased to be an important political power, and the Songhai Empire rose in its place. We're going to add lost control of trade. And the Songhai took its place. All right, let's expand this if you need to get caught up. Oh, there we go. That would have been nice to know. All right, this is everything we've taken notes on so far. Ghana's weakness allowed Mali to take over. Mali took control of the gold and salt trade for 300 years, and they even expanded the gold and salt trade. Timbuktu was a culturally important place of Africa, and it was in the Mali kingdom. People would come from all over to trade in Timbuktu, and not only would they trade goods, but they would also trade ideas. And so that's what makes it culturally important. The Emperor Mansa Musa expanded Mali to its largest boundaries, and he made the pilgrimage to Mecca. Let me see here. Maybe we should add also, he spread his wealth on his pilgrimage. Oops, there we go. Spread his wealth on his peer, because that's the most important part about that, because most Muslims make this pilgrimage to Mecca, but what makes him different, what makes him stand out, is that he brought so much wealth with him that it actually changed the economies of different cities he went to. He had a huge impact. We know about the Mali Empire so much because of Ibn Battuta. He wrote about the kingdom while he stayed there. And then Mali declined after Musa died. They had a rebellion. This led to a loss of control of trade. And then the Songhai Empire, or we'll say kingdom, took its place. All right, I'm going to leave, oops, I'll leave it right like this. And you can pause it to write down any notes that you still need to take. So pause it if you still need to take notes. I'm actually going to move on. Go down here, minimize this a little bit. All right. And we're going to switch over to the Songhai Kingdom. Songhai Empire. Let me come down here and grab, oops. Oh, I lost my notes. Oh well, I'll start some new notes for the Songhai Empire. I think I did this. Yeah, take notes. There we go. The Songhai Empire. All right, so we see the word unlike here. That means it's going to be different from the empires we've previously looked at. So unlike these two empires, the Songhai Empire revolved around the city of Gao in the northern bend of the Niger River. So let's see if we can find the northern bend of the Niger River. Zoom in quite a bit here. And they don't really have... Okay, there we go. Northern bend. Well, I'm guessing it's going to be up here. So, wow. The Songhai Empire actually developed in a region that was mostly desert. Because, let's see here. Oh, yeah. They're definitely desert. So the people of the city of Gao, after they rebelled against the Mali Empire, they expanded their territory. So all of this that's happening, the Ghana Empire, the Mali Empire, and now the Songhai Empire, they are really, it's just a power struggle. And as one loses power, another one steps up and takes over. Then eventually, after 300 years, they lose power, and then the next strongest comes up and takes power. It's not that big of a difference between each one. They all want trade control. It's just different groups of people. So, they take over, they rebel, and they expand their territory just like any other empire would do. Ali the Great, who ruled Songhai from these dates, 1492. That's an important year. You know, that's, oops, there we go. That is Christopher Columbus. So that gives us a good reference in time. This guy is ruling up until the time Christopher Columbus set sail. So that's where we are in history. But he formed a fierce army of cavalry and infantry, so horse riders and foot soldiers, and captured the cities of Timbuktu, this place, and he incorporated the people he conquered into his army. So when he would conquer a place, he would have them fight for him. So we'll say the Songhai Empire. Ali the Great expanded the empire and forced conquered people, there we go, to join his forces. Cancel that. All right, another strong Songhai ruler was Askia Muhammad Touré, who ruled from these dates. He overthrew the Songhai king and proclaimed himself king. So he didn't necessarily change the empire. He just wanted the power for himself, so he overthrew that king and became king himself. He also expanded the boundaries of the Songhai Empire until it reached its greatest extent. So we can say Songhai was largest under Askia's rule. And he created a system for governing his vast empire, because when you have a country so large, you need a good system of keeping track of things, a good justice system. You just need to have a system of order so that you don't have rebellions or food shortages or a bad economy. And he did this by dividing it into 5 provinces, just like counties, and appointing a governor. So let's, Askia divided, his empire into counties, we'll just say, with governors. All right, he also took control of trade, just like all the other empires. And at its peak, the Songhai Empire stretched from the gold fields in the south to the salt mines in the north, and from the Atlantic Ocean in the west to the modern-day countries of Niger and Nigeria in the east. So let's just look at the from Atlantic Ocean to Niger, see how large that is. All right, so the Atlantic Ocean is over here. Wow. So his kingdom stretched from here all the way to here. The gold mines in the south to the salt mines in the north. So all of West Africa. So this seems to be the largest empire that we've looked at in Africa so far. Largest, well, let's just say expanded. Oh, we already have that note. I'm so sorry. So now we just know actually how big it is since we looked at the map. Although the Songhai Empire, we're down here now, was the largest of the three empires, it was also the shortest lived. And that makes sense. It was so large it really was hard to keep control of. So it didn't last as long as the other empires. Let's expand this a bit. All right, in the 1580s, Moroccan forces from across the Sahara invaded first the salt mines and then the heart of the Songhai Empire, and it fell around 1590. All right, don't really know what that is. Let's go on down here. Oops. This is all very new to me, so. All right, just like the last one, if you need to take any more notes about the Songhai Empire, pause the video now, write down anything else you need to take, and then continue, because I'm going to keep going with this. Possibly. We'll see what's next. Yeah, this is more recent than we really need to get into. So let me just go skip back and make sure I didn't miss any pictures that we might like to get. Well, here's a video. This is about Timbuktu. Mansa Musa brought Islam to Timbuktu and transformed the city into a center of Islamic culture and teaching. Let's just see what all this is about. It's just a little over 4 minutes.
The savannas of West Africa were home to two of Africa's greatest ancient trading empires. Both grew up along the banks of the Niger River in the modern nation of Mali. The first of these empires was called Ghana. Ancient Ghana built its power on the rich deposits of gold that can still be found in the region. Ghana grew rich by controlling the lucrative gold and salt trade between the people of West Africa and those of North Africa. After ruling much of West Africa for over 700 years, the Ghana Empire was defeated by Muslim Arabs in 1076. When Ghana fell, the valuable caravan routes it had protected became dangerous, and trade suffered. But another empire arose in the grasses of the savannas. This new Mali Empire was founded in 1235 by the young king Sundiata, whose name means hungering lion. Sundiata recaptured the gold-producing areas of West Africa and re-established the gold and salt trade. Profits from trade made Mali's emperors rich and powerful. Mali's most famous emperor was Mansa Musa, who came to power around 1312 and ruled the empire for 25 years. Mansa Musa was a devout Muslim. Mansa Musa was one of the first rulers to make Islam his empire's official religion. But Mansa Musa wasn't content to simply practice Islam in Mali. He wanted to make the pilgrimage to the holy city of Mecca in modern Saudi Arabia. This pilgrimage, called the Hajj, is one of the 5 pillars of Islam, or duties that a faithful Muslim should perform. In 1324, Mansa Musa set out for Mecca, but he didn't make the journey as a humble pilgrim. Mansa Musa turned it into a royal occasion. He brought thousands of officials and slaves with him. He loaded more than 80 camels with sacks of gold and dressed himself and his servants in rich silks and jewelry. It's said that Mansa Musa and his followers spent and gave away gold so generously that they upset many of the local economies they passed through. They left behind so much gold in Cairo, Egypt, that gold became almost commonplace there and lost much of its value. By the time Mansa Musa completed his pilgrimage, the incredible wealth of his empire had become widely known. Mali standing in the world soared, and even more trade and wealth came to its market cities. Mansa Musa used his wealth to spread the religion of Islam. He brought Egyptian artists to Mali to build fabulous mosques. He also brought Muslim scholars to teach the basic beliefs of Islam. He had a new palace built in Timbuktu. This city had served as a bustling center of the gold and salt trade for centuries. Merchants traveled long, dangerous roads to gather in Timbuktu to buy gold or slaves in exchange for Saharan salt and North African cloth and horses. Under Mansa Musa, the city was transformed into a center of Islamic culture and teaching. Soon, Timbuktu overflowed with students and scholars from around the Muslim world. But it wasn't just Islam that the scholars of Timbuktu studied. Doctors there pioneered new operations on the human eye, and mathematicians reworked ideas from India to create the Arabic numerals that form the basis of today's numbering system. Mansa Musa had transformed Mali's wealth into lasting monuments, and a commodity even more valuable than gold: knowledge.
Alright, so I think that will wrap up this video. Let's see this question. What factors enabled Mansa Musa to have such a great impact on Mali? Yeah, answer that too. So that should be the ending to your notes. What factors enabled Mansa Musa to have such a great impact on Mali? And if you need to, back it up to the beginning of this, not this whole video, but just the beginning of this video that I played on here, if you can't really think of the factors. Alright, so yeah, make sure you have your notes. Make sure you don't lose them for the test on Thursday. And I hope this wasn't too weird.